But here's the issue. To reduce emissions, and this is where we disagree, Ms. Berman and others who are opposed to our pipelines argue that we must wind down oil sands production as quickly as possible. And we must stop Albertans from getting fair value for our resources on world markets by building new pipelines. In essence, they say we must sacrifice the jobs and well-beings of hundreds of thousands of working families. Now, of course, they don't put it exactly like that, but that is the implication, and quite frankly, that is the outcome. Because while many anti-pipeline activists have the luxury of flying in and out of Alberta, spreading the verbal equivalent of pink slips after pink slip for working people, we know that nothing gets done without the people who produce the energy that powers those flights. Building a new pipeline to the West Coast will not, I repeat, it will not increase emissions from our oil sands. A new pipeline will simply increase the return we all get for the resources we as Albertans all own. But here's the bottom line. Climate action is not free. There is a cost. And to cover that cost, we must grow our economy. We must diversify our economy. We must create jobs. We must fund the things working people depend on. And that's why we need to build Trans Mountain. You see, right now, Alberta's oil will move to markets one way or another, as long as there is a demand. And according to the International Energy Agency, demand for oil is projected to increase over the next 2 decades at least. The oil will move by train, or it will move by truck, or it will move by pipeline. Between these 3 options, there are some big differences. First, modern, well-regulated, well-designed, and closely supervised pipelines are the safest way to transport our resources. Transporting them in a way that also generates fewer emissions than trucks and trains. Second, diversifying the markets we sell to means we can eventually command a better price, getting each and every one of us a better return. And third, when we ship our resources by pipeline instead of by rail, the cost to ship goes down and the return to Albertans goes up. Right now, because of our limited pipeline access, we're shipping primarily to the United States on rail, and so we are doing it for much less than your resources are worth. It costs the Canadian economy at least $40 million a day. Even more right now with the differential at absurd, punishing, and record-setting levels. Just yesterday, for heaven's sakes, it was over $50. That differential means that instead of that money going into our economy, it goes into whatever the Americans want to spend it on. Yachts, private jets, border walls, you name it. I ask you, does this make any sense? Does it make any sense for Canada to take a deeply discounted price on an oil produced under an emissions cap because we are forced to move it by rail to one market south of the border? Does it make any sense for Canada to hold our own economy hostage while countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia can sell their oil around the world and also in Eastern Canada? To countries that I might add don't care one whit about climate change. Of course it doesn't. I submit that it's ridiculous. And I would say to those who oppose our fight to build this pipeline that they are being extremely foolish. Let me break it down. They care about climate change, but they are attacking a continental climate leader, our province. Without there is no hope of Canada meeting its climate commitments. They care about the safeties of our cities and towns, but they are advocating for more oil moving by trains and trucks. They care about marine safety, yet they ignore the historic $1.5 billion investment in marine safety that comes alongside the Trans Mountain Pipeline. An investment that will make it safer for the roughly 100 ships that use those waters every day, not just the one additional oil tanker that would come as a result of Trans Mountain. They care about human rights, as we all do here. But by restricting Alberta from selling its oil on world markets, we're forced to do business with some of the world's most repressive autocratic regimes. And pipeline opponents tend to support strong public services. But just how are we supposed to support them in a shrinking economy never seems to come up. The bottom line is this. Maybe on Salt Spring Island you can build an economy on condos and coffee shops, but not in Edmonton and not anywhere in Alberta. Here in Alberta, we ride horses, not unicorns. And I invite pipeline opponents to saddle up on something that is real.